What's a saying that you've always hated? I brought you into this world and I can take you out of it. Yeah, my mother is crazy. Remember, you can take her out of it too, like the Sith rule of two. Live each day as if it were your last. Okay, I quit my job, bought a Mercedes and maxed out all my credit cards on hookers and blow. What will I do tomorrow? Do it until you're right. Shouldn't take too long. You won't get a job by staring on your computer all day. I was a kid and wanted to be a programmer. Nope, it's true. I get all my jobs by wearing a suit and marching on into places with my resume and demanding to speak to a manager, and every time I'm hired on the spot. As a resident I hear this way too much. Only in Ohio do you get all 4 seasons in 1 week. Nope, it happens all over the place. It happens every year during spring and fall. I remember overhearing a conversation when I was in Boston for an event where a woman was laughing and saying, "You know what they say about Boston? If you don't like the weather, wait a few minutes." I've heard that exact saying in reference to my hometown. I realized it's probably a pretty common thing. I have lived in all 4 contiguous US time zones in several different climates. They say this everywhere. Edit. Except Phoenix, presumably because they find it difficult to speak while engulfed in flames. God never gives you more than you can handle. Oh yeah, what about all the people who commit suicide, or have stress-induced heart attacks? Anytime you start dating someone and a friend, a relative warns you that if you ever hurt them they will kill you. My mill did this at my wedding. 1. No you won't. You'll just talk mad about me if I ever break their heart. 2. Why are you threatening me with violence at my wedding? When I was in 7th grade, my girlfriend's dad showed me his gun collection and said, "Let this be a warning." What? You're going to shoot a 13-year-old? I had a similar experience. I think I was in 8th grade when my then Jeef's dad greeted me at the door with a shotgun when I came over for her birthday party. We'd met before and he knew I was coming over. Yeah, sure, blow a nerdy child's brains out at your daughter's birthday party in front of everyone. That will show them you're so cool. I'll tell you later. Background to that reasoning. I'm deaf and I want to be involved in group conversation, and I've always been told off. I'll tell you later. Also deaf. I hate being told, never mind, as well when I ask someone to repeat something. I mentioned this before on a similar question, but I hate it when your some says something along the lines of, "Oh sorry, am I keeping you up? Get fucked." It's a yawn. It happens. This blows. I've got asthma and it gets really bad in the winter. Sometimes yawning is the only way I can take a deep breath, and people get offended by it. Stop crying or I'll give you a reason to cry. I used to get told this all the time as a kid and it just made me cry harder. I never have and never will say it to my kids. My mum said it too and I'd get more upset, scared what the reason would be. Are you working hard or hardly working? God, I hate that saying. Reply with pays the same, Bob. Regardless if what their name is. Boss makes $1, I make a dime. That's why I on company time, and for the British boss makes £1, I make a pence. That's why I at the company's expense. Flattery will get you nowhere. The opposite is usually true. No, I will get you flattery. No, insults will get you somewhere. It's common sense, not because some things aren't actually common sense, but because when someone tells you that it's so, you shut up and don't question what makes it so obvious. I had a professor in college that asked our class to explain to him what the classifications are to consider something common sense, and not a single person could do it. Moral of the lesson: common sense implies a universal truth, but in reality is completely subjective. I had a professor that said common sense is biased based on your past experiences. So what's common sense for you will not be common sense to me. He told us to tell that to our parents when we went home, and they said something like, "All that college learning, and you still don't have common sense. Cheaters always lose." Couldn't be more wrong, as there are a lot of people who are cheaters that are on top of their game, just like Thomas Edison. Ray Kroc basically did this with McDonald's. If you can't handle me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best. Hate this one so much. It's often used to justify toxic behavior. No one is entitled to treat others like and be excused for it. The kicker: their best isn't really that far off from their worst in most cases. Their best is them not treating you like a piece of for 10 minutes. It can only get better. Now all I can do is think through all the many ways that it can always get worse. If you ever think it can only get better, that only means that when it gets worse, it won't be a spike or pitfall but a roll downhill. The customer is always right. No, they aren't. Or the variant, the customer is king. I come from France. When a king is abusive, we behead the monsieur. Try me, in foray. Edit. Just to use everyone's favorite saying on Reddit, and is it's topical. Wow, first gold. Thank you, kind stranger. I like that one a lot more. Her is what you get out of a pig when you kick it in the. Also, hey is for horse. No, I said, hey, and you know it. Now hey, I need your help. Which is exactly why instead of saying, hey is for horses, I say, hey is for horses, so that there's no confusion. I can be your best friend, or your worst enemy. Thanks for the psycho warning. I'll take neither. Update. Okay, this comment is gilded. Thanks, lol. And my inbox exploded. WTF, Reddit. By the way, to those asking, this isn't something I've heard someone actually say, but it's something I've seen on tons of profiles on dating sites and personal ads back when I was single. It's so arrogant. You think you're cool enough to be my best friend, or my worst enemy. Really, you're probably just some moody acquaintance who I choose not to hang out with. Most likely you either be that guy the first kinda like, or that guy the first kinda don't like. When people say, just sayin', as a way of trying to hammer in their passive-aggressive point. Heard it so much in super passive-aggressive situations that anytime I hear it, even if not in that context, it automatically makes me super upset. Similarly, when someone makes a poor argument and you point it out, they respond with, yeah but still, anything along the lines of, if you can dream it, you can do it, anything is possible, or other self-aggrandizing encouragement. It's just self-serving if not entirely wrong. I've always disliked this sentiment for the same reason as you. I developed a new dislike for it lately too. My son, who is just shy of 2 years old, was born blind. It's not treatable. We're decades away from anything that would be able to fix it. And even if a miracle breakthrough happens, any possible option would be really invasive and risky. In all practicality, he will live out the rest of his life without vision. When we found out, people tried to help out by saying things like, he'll still be able to do anything. This won't change things. Like, no, that's just flat out not true. My son will not be able to do things that require a heavy visual component. He's not going to be a race car driver. He likely won't be an architect, or a graphic designer, or a police officer, or an expert marksman. There are a lot of things he can't do, no matter how badly he may want to do them, monsieur. And the idea that you can achieve anything by just trying hard enough, and wanting it bad enough, is toxic for anyone, but more so with people who have disabilities that limit what they can do. I don't focus on that. He's young enough that he needs encouragement still, too. We don't talk about the can't part of things very much at this point, and instead put effort in encouraging him to keep doing things he likes. But wanting to do something and putting effort toward it does not magically make you able to overcome all obstacles. Some barriers are too big to be overcome by sheer will, no matter who you are. Good approach. Stay tough for Batman. This is a great start to the origin story. Good things come to those who wait. Couldn't be more wrong. I've waited long enough. Still nothing. Keep waiting. You'll get your G-string soon enough. Sleeping like a baby, or slept like a baby. Do these people not have babies? Babies in general don't sleep very well. The only way the saying makes sense is if they woke up often crying, hungry, and or pooping themselves. My dad sometimes says this when asked how he slept. I slept like a baby. I woke up every hour screaming and shitting or pants. It could always be worse. Or, at least you don't have it as bad as. So like you're only allowed to feel suffering if you have the absolute worst possible situation at any given time? Are you only allowed to be happy if you have the absolute best situation at a given point in time? In situations like that I always go back to my favorite quote from Young Frankenstein. Igor, it could be worse Frankenstein. How? Igor, it could be raining, cue thunder and downpour. It helps me to acknowledge that the situation sucks, but also helps me to realize that I can get through it. YMMV. Also, I typically would not say this to someone who is going through a major problem, i.e., death of a friend, family member or something equally as serious. If you can't beat M, join E Monsieur. Sorry, not gonna sacrifice my principles. Sacrifice your principles then. I liked my principal. He was a decent man, not a fitting offering to the dark gods. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. No. The amount of people who have gone through the most brutal traumatic experiences and now suffer PTSD or a million other stresses from it are not necessarily stronger. And it's a bastardization of Nietzsche's original quote. What he said was, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." He wasn't making a grand statement about the way of the world and how things were. He was making a proclamation and promise to himself, saying that he would not let his many illnesses keep him from accomplishing what he wanted to accomplish. It was about marshalling his own strength of will, not describing some truth of the human experience with adversity. You deserve it. X. Should I spend a lot of money on this completely irrational purchase? Yes, you deserve it. Treat yourself. Back when my dad was sick, and it was clear he wasn't going to last much longer, I was sitting on a bench in the hallway of an oncology ward trying to gather my thoughts. I was 20 at the time and barely keeping it together. An older man walked by and slapped me on the back and said, "Cheer up, it's not that bad." And I have never had smoke come out of my ears quite like that. I still think back to that moment and wish I'd been able to pick my jaw off the floor in time to catch him before he got on the elevator and tell him exactly why it sometimes is that bad. But he was gone before I recovered. In short, don't ever tell someone to cheer up, especially when they're sitting in the hallway of an oncology ward. Apart from the most generic of well-wishers, I don't think it's ever really appropriate to bring up anyone's illness or attitude towards it. When my dad was first diagnosed, he went in for radiation treatment with 5 or 6 other people. The husband of one of the other patients decided to give him a bit of life advice. "Bob, you know, you really should keep a positive attitude. It's very important." "Dad, have you ever had cancer?" "Bob, no, Dad." "Then shut the up. Everything happens for a reason. I just don't think it does." Edit. Just to clarify, I don't mean in a cause and effect kind of way. I mean like destiny, karma, or a God's plan. Also, holy thank you so much for my first gold.